On this week's episode of the Nerf Report, we got 6 brand new games to introduce you to. No Man's Sky's World Part 2 update has officially dropped. PlayStation is planning an Egyptian God of War game. Xbox is sending yet another exclusive over to PlayStation. And Multiversus looks like it's finally coming to an end. All of this and so much more on this week's episode of the Nerf Report.
Can you see me?
Let's just film the video.
Zip it! The ghost of Macho Man Randy Savage is here!
Oh my god! Yes, negativity sells, and it sure as hell makes clicking your thumbnails a lot easier. But I, as a gamer, as a nerd, as a creator, I am so tired of being upset for clicks.
Are you listening?
Welcome, strangers from distant lands and friends of old. You've been summoned for another episode of the Nerf Report. Thank you guys so much for joining me this week. You know, February is finally here. Yeah, it is February 1st. January is over. I think looking back, January was a wild month. It was a great way to kick off such a crazy year, but like Nintendo Switch 2 reveal, a lot of Nintendo Switch 2 leaks. You had the Doom announcement, South of Midnight announcement, and then you also had the Minecraft story, right? All the Minecraft, like, will it come out? Will it not come out? There was so much drama, so much excitement throughout the month, and I think we're leading to, like, one of the craziest years for gaming news. And I am so glad y'all are joining me on this journey as we go throughout the year, and also joining me for this week's episode where we got a ton of gaming news to talk about. But before we dive into the gaming news, I definitely want to give a special shout out to the Nerf Gaming News Plus members who make this show possible. Yeah, we updated the subscription tier here on YouTube this week, so now you can become a Nerf Gaming News Plus member for the low price of $1.99. With that cost, it gets you access to every piece of content, including our daily show exclusive for members that dives into daily gaming news. It gets you 48 hours early access to our seasonal content like the Pixel Reel, and of course it helps us keep the lights on. All that money through Nerf Gaming News Plus gets reinvested back in the show. We get new lights, we get new microphones, we get new who's-y what's-its, we can hire some people to help us create some graphics. It makes the show possible, so thank you to everybody who's supporting us. Now, I definitely want to dive into the news of Forza Horizon 5 coming to the PlayStation 5, but before we do that, let's show off the first game of the week. This one is a first-person boomer shooter by Trigger Happy Interactive. Let's check out Turbo Overkill.
Clench your holes, kids. We're entering paradise airspace.
Best make this a quick trip. Paradise isn't a place you want to be for long. The Sin virus is rapidly spreading its tendrils across the city.
Where's the fire and brimstone, man? We need that virus purged now! That chainsaw leg ain't gonna kill all by itself.
We have to purge Sin, and we have to do it now.
You dare stand before me? You who is but blood and dust. You cannot live in a world without sin.
You never could dance, Johnny.
Sir, go fuck them up.
In these last years, I've seen so much. I've seen gods. I've become one. I cannot have you getting in my way. This ends now.
Turbo Overkill, now available on consoles and PC from Apogee Entertainment. Soundtrack now available on all major music platforms.
Xbox's exclusive Forza Horizon 5 is coming to PlayStation. Yeah, the era of Xbox exclusives seems to be coming to an end because Forza Horizon 5 was announced as coming to the PlayStation 5, which is wild. Wild for many reasons, but like I really do think we're gonna get to a point where I'm not gonna have to cover this on every week's show. We could maybe just put it down in the ticker, but like we're going to get to a point that so many Xbox games come to PlayStation that is just going to be no different than like whether Final Fantasy comes or Halo comes, it's all going to be exactly the same. It's just Xbox is going to drop a trailer and I'm going to be like, man, I get to play that on PlayStation, Xbox. Anyway, I cannot wait for that. But yeah, in case you missed the news, over on the official X account for Forza, they announced that this spring, the Horizon Festival arrives on PlayStation 5. Start your adventure with crossplay on all platforms. And look, that's big news right there. But again, as I kind of mentioned, this is kind of getting normalized where it's not becoming as big of a deal. I mean, and I think the reason for this normalization has to be Phil Spencer. You might remember 2 years ago, year and a half, Phil Spencer came out and he's like, hey, we just want to test the water. We're going to send 4 games over to PlayStation. We're going to take our shoes off, dip it in the pool, and see how that water feels. And then a couple months later, Sea of Thieves, #1 selling game on PlayStation, and everyone's loving it. Sales are going wild, and Phil Spencer says, hold on, let's just roll up our sleeves a little bit. Let's roll up our pant legs and get a little deeper in this water, because now there's no red lines. You want Master Chief, you want Horizon, you want Forza, whatever you want, we will send to PlayStation. And now I think it's safe to say that we're at a point where Phil Spencer's just like, screw red lines, man. The water feels good. Cannonball! And look, I joke, but this is a big deal. Spring is going to be massive for PlayStation. Keep in mind, this spring, Xbox will be sending over Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which is coming to PlayStation 5 this spring. Doom: The Dark Ages will be launching for PlayStation 5 this spring. And now, Forza Horizon 5 will be coming to PlayStation this spring, making the 3 to 4 month period of spring one of the best springs in PlayStation recent memory. Like, I don't know if I'm ever leaving the house. All I'm going to be doing is playing all these new games on Sony. But anyway, spring is going to be awesome for Sony. And, if you're not familiar with Forza Horizon 5, it is one of the most premier racing games in the industry today. I think there's something like over 900 cars since launch. There's been over like 40 expansions for this game, or 40 updates. There's like 2 major expansions that they released that you can pay for. And you're literally always finding something new in this game. It doesn't feel like you're just racing around the track, because you're racing in an open world Mexico. And one of my favorite things about this game when I played it was that, like, I don't know if they were real players. I don't know if it was actually my friends, but like I'd be driving down the roads of Mexico and then I would see my friend Jason and I'd be like, hola, Jason is driving a Corvette. That is a really nice Corvette. It'd be a shame if my Jeep ran you over. And I would get up next to him and just run him off the road. It's great because you can interact with your friends or maybe the ghosts of your friends in game. We've never really seen a game do that before to this scale, and it's such a fun time. Now, we did mention the expansions that you have to buy. Xbox did expand upon this a little more, and it said, in regards to the 2 expansions, one of them is going to be a Hot Wheels, and the other one is a Rally Adventures expansion, and those will be separate purchases. So if you do want to get those will be on top of the game. However, in honor of the game arriving, there will be free content being added in the form of Horizon Realms. And this is an update that we'll be releasing for free of charge. And according to what I'm reading here, it's going to be a collection of some of Forza's best races and creations. Now, I definitely want to point out at the time of filming this, the pricing is not available, the release date is not available, but on the PlayStation Store you can wishlist it, so you can add it to your wish list and be ready once it launches. But it's also, worth noting, hey, on Xbox right now you can pick this game up outside of Game Pass for $29.99. So I think it's safe to say that when it comes to PlayStation, this game should be about $30. If they decide to charge $60, that's a big swing for the fence by Xbox, but I think it's safe to say we will see a similar price across the platforms here. And, I guess the reason I wanted to talk about this is even though this is becoming normalized, I was still kind of surprised. Like, I was surprised to see Forza be the game that's coming over to PlayStation because I did not predict that. I'm not disappointed at all. I think it's going to be a great game for Sony, but, like, I was thinking we would see, like, Gears of War, maybe Hellblade 2, or even the Master Chief Collection come over to PlayStation this year. But who knows? We still have plenty of months ahead of us. There's still plenty of time for those games to come. And I sure hope we do. Now, from the world of Xbox, we got to dive back into the world of PlayStation to talk about God of War heading to Egypt. But before we do that, here's a brand new game trailer for a third-person tower defense game, which I absolutely adore this title. Orcs Must Die, Deathtrap. Here is the brand new trailer. A massive God of War leak is pointing towards the next chapter in God of War taking place in Egypt, which, look, Kratos has already killed Zeus, he's already killed Thor, he's already killed Tyr. Why not just say like, hey Anubis, you're next, or Osiris, or Horus, you want some, come get some. In fact, PlayStation, if you're watching, I want you to give me a Kratos WWF promo where he comes out and he's like,
Look here, Mean Gene. I'm gonna swim up that Nile, walk up that pyramid, slap that smile off the Sphinx's face, and then stomp a mud hole in every single one of those hieroglyphic loving lowercase g gods, cause Kratos said so.
which, you know what, a beard-chugging, white trash Kratos who rides ATVs and stomp mud holes, that could make a very interesting video game if we are being honest with ourselves right now. So anyway, in regards to the leak and this game coming to Egypt, Daniel Richtman revealed over on their Patreon that Sony is casting Middle Eastern actors for an unknown AAA game, which is likely to be the next God of War that explores Egyptian mythology. Wait, hold up, let's read that one more time. They're casting Middle Eastern actors for an unknown AAA game, which might be the next God of War game. Well, if it's the next God of War game, it's not that unknown, Daniel. But unfortunately, I mean, the reality here is like this is still just a rumor or a leak. Unfortunately, Sony Santa Monica obviously have not commented or even hinted at a new God of War game recently. In fact, the last God of War game we heard about was the recent live service God of War game that PlayStation just killed. And like, nobody wants to play this game. But, you know, also when you think about Egypt, I mean, there was also the Cory Barlog making of God of War documentary that came out. That was such a good film. It's free on YouTube, definitely worth watching. But I want to say that in that documentary, they talk about Egypt. And they're like, hey, before we decided to go like all in on Norse mythology, Egyptian mythology was definitely up there. And look, I mean, an Egyptian God of War game definitely sounds sick. I mean, like, outside of the fact that Kratos has already killed all the Greek and Roman gods and he's already killed all the Norse gods, just have him head south and kill some more. I mean, that's kind of what we're facing here, you know? Like, maybe the story is that Kratos is like, I heard that you can bring people back from the dead. So he heads, like, to the land of the dead and he wants to bring his wife back. Or maybe the Egyptian gods are so upset with the way that the Norse gods were treated that they're like, we got to take Kratos out. If we don't take Kratos out now, and it's just like a war. I mean, a lot of potential and a lot of options, but when you think about God of War, I mean, it does kind of just say, like, it's the ultimate breeding ground for content, right? Like, we're getting Egyptian, we've had Norse, we've had Greek, we could essentially do Roman as well, but, like, how far off are we from, like, a Mayan or a Chinese mythology game? Like, I would, personally, as much as I love this series, I'd love to see them go all over the globe and maybe even hit, like, Indian mythology or like Native American mythology or any of those. I think there's a lot of potential here, but you know, it's also definitely worth mentioning here. Again, this is Daniel Richtman's Patreon where he just basically posted a note saying, hey, I hear they're casting voice actors. That could mean they're working on a God of War game, or that could just mean they're hiring these voice actors in order to like translate for other things. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a God of War video game. So obviously we'll be covering this story more as it develops. So please take everything that you just heard as a grain of salt. And until we hear it officially from Sony, put this in the rumor column. And up next, we're going to be talking about the No Man's Sky Worlds Part 2 update, which completely blew my mind. But before we do that, we're talking about a brand new side-scrolling action-adventure game called Laika Aged Through Blood.
Rated M for mature.
No Man's Sky has received its 37th update, with this one being called Worlds Part 2. That's right, as hard as the internet and all the haters tried, this game is still putting out some content. Like, I played No Man's Sky so hard at launch. I absolutely loved this game. And as a fan of everything that there is, I don't think I could have even predicted in that moment the amount of support that we have seen this game. And I think it's almost to the point that, like, not only has the game reached its initial vision, but I feel like it's gone beyond what they originally pitched. And I know, look, we could talk about that E3 presentation all day where No Man's Sky was oversold at what we were going to get on launch, but I think if you look at the game now and what we have, man, I think the game's crazier than what was pitched at E3. I think it's a lot cooler. Now, the game's director, Sean Murray, did kind of put together a bullet point list of what's included in it, and it's nuts. So let's just break these down. You got gas giant planets, new terrain, lighting overhaul, new solar systems, deeper oceans, new biomes, weather hazards, starship archiving, abandoned mode, deep sea creatures, dynamic weather, improved cooking, evolving story, and Titan expedition. And I want to break these down a little bit because on top of this post on X, Sean Murray also released a video that kind of dives into like the update. And on the topic of the new solar systems, No Man's Sky is saying that there are now billions of new solar systems and trillions of new planets added to this game, right? Remember that number that came out that was like, in order to play this game and hit every single planet, it would take like 2 lifetimes. Like, that's what's crazy about this game, is you could play it 24 hours a day for the rest of your life and you would still never be able to visit all of the solar systems and all of the planets. It's wild to me. The other update is the terrain update, which Sean Murray basically said he worked on it himself. And, you know, there's things now like mountain ranges and kind of some craggy rock scenarios that you're going to be running across, and just basically new landscapes that you've never seen before. But then the other big thing is like gas giants, right? We have gas giant planets, and according to Sean Murray, these are going to be 10 times bigger than the current biggest planet in the game. And, you know, when you land on them, all hell's going to break loose. Like, it's going to be completely toxic. There's going to be giant storms, tons of danger. So when you land on them, it's going to be like, dude, this is a fun kind of like end of game, like, can I survive type experience. I think that's super cool. The oceans is the other one, because again, remember, this game had a lot of water improvements. They added life to the oceans, but now this update says that some of the oceans could be kilometers deep. That you could literally keep swimming and swimming and swimming, and thanks to the updates to like lighting, the deeper you get in the water, the darker the ocean around you get. And not to make that terrifying or even more terrifying, but like there's going to be giant sea monsters swimming through the water with you. The water is on the surface. It's going to be reflecting planets and stars and mountains and trees. And so it's realism. In fact, they were talking about ripples for a good portion of this trailer, and they were saying that the ripples in the water can be caused by like you walking or you swimming, or it can be caused by like spacecraft flying above it that it will like ripple and respond to it, or if there's fish or creatures underneath the water will ripple and respond to them as well, which is a really cool add-on to the game that I don't think really anyone expected there. And look, a little behind the scenes here, No Man's Sky is officially reinstalled on my PlayStation 5. I think I uninstalled it to like make room for Call of Duty or for something like that, but I haven't touched the game, I want to say, in like a good year, and I played that game religiously when it launched. And so, I mean, I guess I think of it this way, like if I loved the game at launch, when there was literally nothing to that game other than like mining resources and selling it on ships, I think I'm going to absolutely adore where the game is at now, and I cannot wait. I'll have to like explore everything, come back next week, and kind of report on my experience. And yeah, I guess this is just a fair word of warning with me jumping back into No Man's Sky. If there's no episode next week, blame it on Sean Murray and No Man's Sky, and send help. Just send someone to turn off my PlayStation so I can get back into the studio. But either way, congratulations to the people who work on this game, Hello Games and No Man's Sky and Sean Murray. This game, you've gone beyond the expectation of players, and I think that this is super awesome. And it also sets the expectation for your next game, kind of what players can expect there. But moving on to our next story, we're going to be diving into PlayStation abandoning the PlayStation 4. However, before we do that, let's dive into our next game. This one is an action roguelike RPG from Skull Games. Check out Cryptical Path.
Well, hello there. You've just stumbled upon the trailer of the very first roguelite builder. Hey, over here. You've played a roguelite before. You know the drill. Kick some ass. Loot items. Explore the dungeon. But here is the twist. Look, open your map. Pick a room. Place it down. You see, you're not just exploring a dungeon, you're building it. Create your path. To find items. And destroy the boss. Or die. Not so easy, is it? You'll need to upgrade your talents. Explore further. Combine items. And optimize every run. All right, I think you've got it now. Cryptical Path, coming January 29th.
Heads up to PlayStation 4 owners, Sony is officially warning that the PlayStation 4 generation is coming to an end. That's right, my friends. The beacon of Gondors are lit. The bat signal is in the sky, and PlayStation is basically saying that the PS4 era is coming to an end. Which sad day, man. Like, when this truly happens, it's going to be such a sad day because the PS4 era, I think, is peak PlayStation. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my PlayStation 5. I think it's such a great console, but the PS4 lineup of games and the content we received that generation was wild. I mean, those games were so good, and they were getting so intensive, and they were pushing the hardware to its limit, to the point that, like, my OG PlayStation sounded like a screaming banshee every time I played The Last of Us, and I'm just like, I look upon that generation so fondly, I guess. Like, it was just such a great time, but anyway, in regards to this week's news, in case you missed it, in this month's PlayStation Plus blog post, Sony dropped an update on the future of the PlayStation 4, specifically the support of PlayStation Plus when it comes to the PS4. Essentially saying stuff along the lines of like, look, the majority of our players, they play on the PlayStation 5. We want you to play on the PlayStation 5, but you still play on the PlayStation 4, so we're going to kind of push you a little bit to kind of convert to the new console. And starting January 2026, that PS4 games will no longer be a guaranteed addition to monthly PS Plus titles. Instead, they will be occasional benefits. And, you know, even Sony went on to say that, hey, like, you know, keep in mind, even though we might put a PS5 game in the lineup, it might still have PS4 support, so, like, you're not out there in the rain. But in the meantime, our focus January 2026 and beyond is going to be PlayStation. So what that tells me as a fan and as someone who covers this is like, hey, it's time to either convert to the PlayStation 5 or start saving for the PlayStation 6. I also think it's kind of funny that like Sony dropped this news after like a pretty solid announcement of PS Plus titles. PlayStation's essentially out there like, hey, we got our PlayStation Plus lineup for February, guys. You're gonna get Payday 3, I know, really cool. High on Life, can you believe it? And Pac-Man World Repack, they're all coming to PlayStation Plus. By the way, PlayStation 4 games, they're only going to be on the service for another 12 months. So, yeah, convert to the PlayStation 5. But anyway, how about those PlayStation Plus games? Am I right? And look, not to defend a multi-billion-dollar organization here, but yeah, I mean, the PlayStation 4 is like 12 years old. And it really shouldn't surprise anyone that like Sony's getting to a point where they're like, okay, guys, the PlayStation 5's been out for 5 years now. Let's kind of move over to the new tech. We can't be supporting this forever. But, you know, I guess this announcement, it's not making me sad, right? Like, I'm on the PS5. This won't impact me. But it does make me wonder, like, how many PS4 and PS3 users are still using the PlayStation Network. Like, last I read, I think it was the PlayStation Network has, like, 120 million monthly active users. And half of those were PlayStation 5. So let's say like 60 million were PS5, the additional 60 million. How many of those are PS3? And how many of those are PlayStation 4? That's the type of stuff that I want to know. I mean, is it safe to say that like PlayStation 4 is 40 million and PS3 are 20 million? Or is it like 50-60 or is it 55-5? Like, What is that number? Because it's super, super intriguing, but I don't think Sony will ever let us know that. But anyway, January 2026, it's going to be coming up sooner than we know it. If you are a PlayStation 4 owner, just a heads up, PlayStation Plus games might start disappearing in the monthly lineup, but you will still have access to the games that you already claimed. And I think we should really say this. I mean, good on Sony for being transparent about this 12 months in advance versus like the month before. So kudos to Sony here. Now, I am very excited about this next story. We're going to be talking about Hogwarts Legacy getting mod support. But before we do that, we obviously have another game to show off. This one is a story-driven first-person shooter game that has elements of horror and survival. Check out MOZI.
Motherfucker! What the hell is that?
It's quiet outside. I'm waiting for you with the energy rods. Hurry up. What if we paint the Ark turquoise?
There's a dead chef in the kitchen.
Can we use it?
No. He has lost his hand somewhere.
Damn, where?
He cooked it with vegetables. I don't know, Alan. There's no hand.
This is Shinnok. In the Kara language, it means thousand-voiced Russian.
How poetic.
Hogwarts Legacy has officially added mod support to the game this week. And you know, I've grown up a console gamer. The majority of the time I play games, they're on consoles, whether it's Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo. But like, this announcement is really pushing me to become a PC gamer. Like, I saw this drop and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to go buy a new gaming PC because I absolutely love this idea. Now, in case you missed it, Hogwarts Legacy announced this week that they are adding mod support to PC versions of this game, and they dropped this awesome trailer that just showcased all these community creations that just look so cool. Like, I need to get a new PC to be able to do this because I definitely want to be a part of this. And look, outside of the awesome creations here, I think what's also cool about this announcement is that Avalanche updated their game editor to ensure that it works with members of the modding community on the Epic Game Store or on the CurseForge mod system, which, look, this is the stuff that makes me geek out about video games. I think mods are incredible. When developers embrace the modding community, I think we all win as gamers. And look, when it comes to Hogwarts Legacy, it's not going to be long before we see, like, Shrek defending his like swamp in the Forbidden Forest and chasing wizards out of the Forbidden Forest, or wizards are going to be flying around on Roombas and Swiffers and vacuums like they're the Sanderson sisters. But also, we're going to see tons of players create like unique missions and side quests and stories and just changed this game so much. And that's where I think that this trailer did such a great job showcasing like what players can expect, because we saw wizards flying on dragons. We saw new user-generated wardrobes like Beetlejuice's outfit, or giant weapons, or flying carpets. And I think, again, as hyped as I am for this announcement, the biggest disappointment here is this will not be available for consoles. But you know, I played this game on PlayStation, but again, seeing this trailer and this announcement has me debating going to get a gaming PC, buying this game for a second time just so I can experience these mods. And look, this is a genius move for the developer, because it's reported that right now they are in development for Hogwarts Legacy 2, and these mods are going to give them such good feedback, and it's going to be such a great breeding ground of creativity that they can gauge what new players are going to want from a sequel, and they can test new things without breaking the game or spoiling development. Like, the future of Hogwarts Legacy 2 is going to be created in these mods, and I think that that is so important. But anyway, shout out to Avalanche Games, the modding community. I cannot wait to see what you do with Hogwarts Legacy. If you are a PC owner, definitely check out Hogwarts Legacy, available right now along with mod support. Now, our final story is going to be diving into Multiversus finally shutting down, but before we do that, we have one last game to introduce you to. This one is an action-packed VR shooter. Check out Cold VR.
I need your help. It's not constantly that this message reaches. We have most time. The name is Cold VR.
Wait, I played this already. This is called Really Warm, right? Man, what the Let's fucking go! Am I in the fucking back room? Oh!
Hello?
All good things must come to an end, and in the case of Multiversus, it looks like their time has come. Yeah, after weeks of rumors, it looks like Warner Brothers has officially pulled the plug on Multiversus. In fact, this was revealed this week on the official Multiversus account over on X. Let's pull this up. Season 5 will serve as the final update for Multiverse, beginning February 4th and ending May 30th. After Season 5 ends, players will be able to enjoy the game online for the foreseeable future. Visit our blog post and FAQ for more details. Thank you for the support throughout the journey. And what a ride, man. Like, remember when Multiversus dropped? I think like the story I was thinking about in writing this was how the game hit 20 million total players in like 1 month. And I remember at that time I was like, wow, like that's pre-Marvel Rivals. You're just like, man, that's huge, right? Like that's crazy to hear a game do that. But unfortunately, the game lost a ton of momentum. You know, the game kind of started declining in popularity, and then the developer was like, all right, we're ending our beta and we're going to take the game offline for 10 months and then re-release it. And great. Once they re-released it 10 months later, it got a little bit more popularity because people were checking out to see what happened. But they were never able to keep the momentum going on Multiversus, and I think that's just a big bummer here. Now on top of like this announcement, they did put a blog post out, so I got some further details here. Essentially, Season 5 will see Lola, Bunny, and Aquaman be added as the final characters to the game. And when online features go offline on May 30th at 9 a.m. Pacific time, Multiversus will give players the options of playing either solo against AI in the test facility, or you can play with 3 additional friends locally. Now, this is an important note because I assumed that the game would just be available to download and online mode would be gone. That's not the case, right? So according to what Warner Brothers is saying here is that in order to accomplish offline playing, a player needs to install or download the latest version of the game before May 30th, and if you don't, you will never get the option to re-download this game moving forward, because the game will not be available in the PlayStation Store, the Epic Games Store, or the Xbox Store. So please, if you want to keep this game and preserve it and play it with your friends, you need to make sure that this thing's installed moving forward. Another big win here, real money transactions are no longer available in-game. It doesn't sound like there's going to be any refunds for any of the purchases made. However, Glimium, any Glimium that you've used or have in-game, you got to use it. That is going to be a use it or lose it, because once the game shuts down, they are not refunding it. And I guess it's just wild, man, because like, again, we've been doing this show for 7 years now, so this is one of the, I've seen the beginning to the end. And you know, when Multiversus first leaked, we saw the weird images of like Gandalf fighting Jon Snow, and I was like, what is this game going to be? And then the gameplay came out, right? And you got like Bugs Bunny fighting Rick and Morty, or LeBron James fighting Velma, and you're just like, okay, hold on. This is cool enough that this might catch on, but seeing this, I mean, it just makes me wonder, is like, does the industry only just want one? Like, I know we got Brawlhalla, and I know we have all those other ones, but it's like Smash really going to be it for all of us here? But even then, on the topic of Smash, I mean, I'd love to see their monthly active player count, because I would think it looked very similar to kind of what we saw here with Multiversus. I just don't see that the fighting game community probably has a high player count, that there's constantly millions and millions of players playing either Smash or Mortal Kombat or Brawlhalla. I just can't see that. And maybe that's the learning lesson here for Warner Brothers when it comes to like what we saw with Multiversus, is this shouldn't be a live service, right? Maybe these games just need to be set it and forget it, kind of like Smash is, right? Maybe the next Multiversus game will just be a complete package and Multiversus releases, and they're like, hey, here's Multiversus Melee, or whatever they decide to call it. Maybe that's the future here. And look, like I said, what's fascinating here is that none of these games, Multiversus, Smash Bros., none of those games are pulling Call of Duty or Fortnite numbers in a month. I mean, their numbers have to be drastically different, but that's the side that fascinates me. What is that the Goldilocks zone here, right? Like, what is that sweet spot for a developer to say, I'm going to release this fighting game, and if it hits X amount of players a month, then I'm in a very good place. I'm happy. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe Multiversus just didn't have the money to survive, and they didn't have the money to justify, and they didn't have the player base to justify keeping the servers up. But yeah, it's just sad news for Multiversus fans. It's sad news for the developers who've worked so hard on this game. But word of warning, if you want to keep this game and make sure it doesn't disappear, download Multiversus before May 30th. And yeah, my thoughts go out to the studio making this game, and thank you guys. I had fun with it. I thought it was a really fun game. Not something I'm playing every single day of my life, but played it with my friends. I thoroughly enjoyed it there. So anyway, that is our last story, and that is going to wrap up this week's episode of the Nerf Report. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and a special thank you to the Nerf Gaming News Plus members who make this show possible, and to everybody who made it this far into the show. We got a couple things coming next week, but obviously we're just going to be doing the daily. We got the new episode of Pixel Reel, and we got another episode of Nerf Gaming News coming for you next week. But until next time, my friends, we'll see you in the next video.